Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about 9/11 because why not jump on that hype train? Why not jump on the same bandwagon as everybody else on the internet today and talk a little bit more about this tragedy that happened 18 years ago? Now, why would I want to talk about this today? Why wouldn't I pick some other event, some other political thing that's going on? Well, it turns out that friend of the show, Ben Shapiro, had the biggest brain take about this this morning that I could have ever read, and I thought I'd bring a little bit of my take on his take to you today. Now, I'm going to leave a link in the description below about the article that he wrote, but I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory first on 9/11, like you haven't already heard enough about this today, but I'm going to do it anyway. So 9/11 was a seminal moment in human history where basically everything changed. Before that, you didn't have things like the Patriot Act or the War on Terror. You still had rights like the freedom of speech or the right to unlawful search and seizures or the right to freedom of assembly, all things that have been slowly curtailed throughout the last few years. But because a bunch of Saudi terrorists decided to hijack a plane and fly it into one of the largest buildings on the face of the earth, killing roughly 3,000 people like that, it was a good reason for the United States government to basically use every possible utility that they had at their disposal to launch a new war on terror and try to destroy any semblance of terrorism all across the entire world. Now, most people would think of that as being a fool's errand. You can't destroy terrorism because terrorism is something that isn't orchestrated, or at least it can be orchestrated, but it isn't something that is a government that you can fight or an army that you can destroy. It's something that happens in small independent cells all across the world at random periods of time for many different reasons, not just something that you can launch a war against. It almost is as useless as trying to launch a war on drugs. Unfortunately, it's raining, so I'm gonna have to wipe off my camera here. Sorry about that, guys. So it turns out that Ben Shapiro had an incredibly large brain take on all of this, and he basically said that people today just don't understand how important it is for us to be fighting these wars on terror. And he started to cite the recent tweet made by Donald Trump talking about how he was going to enhance the pressure that they were putting on the Taliban several fold. In fact, he's going to put more pressure on them than has been seen in the past decade. Basically saying that he's going to put every bit of resources that he has at his disposal against the Taliban. And Ben Shapiro thinks that this is a great idea. He thinks that it's a good idea that the largest world superpower is going to use every method at its disposal to fight against a small terrorist cell of probably 100 to 200 people all the way on the other side of the world for revenge against them creating, I guess, a car bomb that killed 12 people. Now, 12 people get killed anywhere in the world for any number of reasons every single day, actually several times a day. And the United States sees absolutely no reason to get involved in that. In fact, there is an active genocide happening in, I believe, Yemen, that the United States is just allowing to happen because, well, they don't really feel any need to get involved with it. I believe that there are some of their allies that are doing it. So they have no reason to get involved in any of those things. They have no reason to get involved in any of the atrocities that are happening all over the world. But 12 people in a car bomb ended up getting killed by the Taliban. Well, Donald Trump is on that shit. He has to absolutely make a show of force, the likes of which they have never seen, apparently. And Ben Shapiro, like I said, thinks that this is a wonderful idea. And his reasoning behind this is basically that people nowadays just don't understand how important it is that we fight this war on terror, because, mimicking just what the exact same thing the administration said back in those days, said Ben Shapiro went on to say, because we have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them here. If we don't destroy terrorism over there, then unfortunately they're going to bring their terrorism here, and we're going to see a surge in terrorism. Basically, Ben Shapiro's take was, we have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them here, so we have to start launching this all-out war against the Taliban all over again because God Emperor Trump has declared it so, and Yeah, he just basically has to toe that line. So I think that it's a terrible, horrible position. I think that that's just a brain dead take. And I want to know what you think about it. And there's also another thing I want to ask your opinion on as well, since you wonderful people are sticking with me this long through this rambly video. I want to know what you think about 9/11. Okay, so now I grew up. Ever since 9/11, I believed that it was not a hoax. I believed the line that the government gave, that this happened because of a terrorist attack launched by the Saudis, or I guess they were saying the Iraqis at the time, but it was by the Saudis, and they crashed their airplane into the building. There was no controlled demolition, and it all fell basically out of nowhere, and it was random. But what I always thought was that the administration took advantage of this and used this incident to enforce all of these draconian laws, to curtail a lot of the freedoms and rights that people had from back in those days, and basically change the state from being a liberal-ish democracy to basically the ultra-nationalist one that we have today. But what do you think about that? Do you think that it was a conspiracy theory? Do you think that it wasn't a conspiracy theory? Do you think that all of this was orchestrated by the government to create the perfect storm where they could destroy any social movements and social groups that were around at the time, and just basically send the people into this tyrannical dictatorship that we have today? Or do you think that it was all just happenstance, that the terrorists just, you know, ran their airplanes into the buildings because they hate us, and they hate us because they hate us? What do you think? I want to know what your opinion is on all of this stuff. Yeah, leave your comments in the comment section down below. Anyway, that's my show. My name is Aaron. Thank you very much for watching. Check me out on Patreon. Every dollar helps fund this show. And have a nice day.